Harrison Wells, 68, sat in his wheelchair. He was out on the city street. Mark, his chief security guard, was with him. Mark stepped away to take a private call. Mark turned his attention to the phone. The chair hit an uneven piece of pavement. The chair jolted sharply. The chair's electronic control system failed. They were on a slight downhill slope. The chair started to roll rapidly. It moved towards the traffic. Harrison fought the controls. His hand slipped away. The chair picked up speed. A large, yellow delivery truck was moving quickly toward the intersection. Harrison's chair was moving directly into its path. Harrison felt the certainty of the impact. He saw people watching. They were frozen. They did not move to help. Mark was shouting, running, but he was too far. Leah was 12. She was walking nearby. She carried her flatbreads, wrapped in cloth. Leah saw the chair, the truck, and the distance. Leah acted immediately. She dropped her flatbreads onto the ground. She started running. She reached the chair before it entered the street. Leah threw her body against the chair's backrest. She used her full strength. The chair's weight hit her. Leah planted her feet. She pushed hard against the momentum. Her shoes slid on the asphalt. She yelled with the force of the effort. She held the chair until it stopped. The stop was sudden and rough. The truck driver applied the brakes. The truck roared and stopped just short of the chair. The horn blared continuously. Mark reached the scene. He was breathless. "Mr. Wells, are you hurt?" "I failed, sir. I apologize." Harrison did not look at Mark. He looked at Leah. Leah stood up slowly. She checked her arm. She spoke to Harrison. "Sir," Leah said, "you must be more careful. Do not ride near the slopes alone. This place is dangerous." Leah turned away. She went to collect her bread. She ignored the crowd. She ignored Mark. She ignored Harrison. Harrison was stunned. This person acted without expectation. Harrison spoke with a low, commanding voice. "Stop!" Leah stopped and looked back. Harrison asked, "Who are you?" Mark stepped forward. "Sir, I will handle this." "Girl, here is money for your food and your help." Mark reached for his cash. Harrison stopped him with a sharp gesture. "No, do not give her money. You failed. She succeeded. You do not buy that action, Mark." Harrison focused only on Leah. He realized the truth of her action was the only real thing he had encountered in years. Harrison issued the command. "Mark, get the chair moving. We are leaving immediately. Back to the penthouse." Mark helped move the chair. He tried to speak about the incident report. "No report," Harrison said. "No police. This is the only instruction. Find her." He pointed toward Leah, who was now leaving the area with her collected bread. "I want her name. I want her address. I want everything about her. You have 60 minutes. Do not fail this time. Go." Mark obeyed the order. They left the scene quickly. The penthouse was a large, silent space of glass and metal. Harrison was taken to his private study. The clock was running. "Start the search now," Harrison commanded. Mark used the security network. He called the surveillance team. "Analyze the street camera footage," Mark ordered. "Identify the girl. Run facial recognition against all available public and private databases. I need an ID within 30 minutes. Mark returned quickly. The news was negative. "Sir, there is no match," Mark reported. "She has no record. No school, no welfare, no ID. She does not exist in the files." Harrison looked at the video screen. The image of Leah was clear but led nowhere. "She was selling flatbreads," Harrison stated. "Find the source of the bread. Trace her path backward. Find the heat signature. She has an oven. Find the location of the oven." Mark immediately shifted the search. He called the technical mapping teams. "We need thermal analysis," Mark instructed the team. "Find a hidden, unregulated heat source in that area. Focus on abandoned and condemned buildings. Report the location." Harrison waited. He thought about his situation. His nephew, Gavin. His financial director, Miss Crow. His lawyer, Jameson. They were all waiting for him to make a mistake. They wanted control. They wanted the money. They almost won today. Leah's action had changed the calculation. He was not dead. He had found a reason to fight. Mark returned with the location. Sir, the thermal signature is confirmed. It comes from the subterranean level of a condemned housing block 3 miles from the incident. It is a large hidden oven. We have the address. Good, Harrison said. Stop the active search. Now we watch. Harrison gave the new command. Place a quiet observation team. 24 hours of constant surveillance. No contact. I want her routine mapped. Every movement, every person she speaks to. I need to know her world before I enter it. Mark made the necessary calls. And the house staff, sir? Do I inform anyone? No, Harrison said firmly. This is secret. Total secrecy. Tell everyone I am ill and resting. No visitors. No contact with Gavin, Crow, or Jameson. Especially not them. They must not know about the girl. If they ask, the incident never happened. Harrison watched the city lights come on outside the glass. Leah was now his secret and his mission. He would move the machinery of his wealth to protect the truth he had found. Harrison sat in his study. He waited for Mark. The silence of the penthouse pressed down on him. Mark entered and closed the door quickly. Report on the girl, Harrison commanded. Sir, the surveillance is active, Mark reported. The location is a dangerous condemned block downtown. The heat leads to a functional hidden oven in the sub-level room. It is highly organized. Harrison absorbed the facts. The routine. She bakes from midnight until dawn, Mark stated. Then she takes the breads and moves to specific routes. She sells some. The rest she gives to other children living rough. They are younger. She is the anchor for them. She returns before noon and sleeps during the day. She is their provider, Harrison said. Yes, sir. She is entirely alone, no adults. She uses a complex system to remain invisible. Harrison made his decision. I am going there now. Mark opposed the order immediately. Sir, that is not possible. The area is highly unstable. My team can retrieve her. We can secure her here. No force, Harrison stated firmly. I forbid violence or intimidation. You will not kidnap the only honest person I have found. I will approach her alone. I will not use authority. Your safety is at risk, Mark protested. The area is hostile. My old life is a greater risk, Harrison replied. You will drive me. You will wait in the vehicle. You will not approach the building. Mark had no choice. Understood, sir. Transport arranged. Harrison worked on the legal structure. He called his secure lawyer, Stern. Draft a legal document immediately, Stern, Harrison ordered. A binding trust and employment contract for a minor. The funds must be secured outside the corporate structure. Simple terms, non-transferable. The purpose, Mr. Wells? Stern asked. Personal assistant, protection and education, Harrison explained. The contract must grant her absolute autonomy within the residence. She cannot be touched. She cannot be questioned by house staff or business associates. It is an iron fortress. The contract was drafted and delivered. Harrison signed it, making it immediately binding. He was ready to offer an unshakable defense. That night, Harrison's simple black van moved downtown. Mark drove. They arrived at the condemned building. Wait here, Mark, Harrison instructed. If I am not back in 5 minutes, call Stern, do not enter the building. Mark opened the door. Harrison activated his chair's internal motor. He moved onto the cracked pavement. He located the dark alley. The alley led to concrete steps descending to the basement. The chair struggled on the rough surface. Harrison manually guided it down, working harder than he had in years. He reached the bottom. The air was warmer, smelling of smoke and fresh yeast. Harrison followed a dark corridor. He heard soft, faint sounds. He stopped his chair near a broken door. He looked inside. The room was clean. The stone oven glowed faintly. Flatbreads were stacked. Several small children slept, wrapped in blankets in a safe corner. Leah was awake. She was scrubbing the wooden table. She was focused. One of the children coughed. Leah moved instantly. She checked the child's forehead. She spoke a few soft, reassuring words. She was the shepherd. Harrison watched. He saw her world. It was a kingdom of simple, pure dedication. Money was not the answer here. Leah returned to the table. She looked toward the door. She felt the presence. Harrison moved his chair slightly. The motor made a faint sound. Leah's head snapped up. She stood still. Her body moved instinctively, placing herself between the sleeping children and the door. Her eyes were steady. No fear, only protection. Harrison spoke first, his voice low. "Hello, Leah," Harrison said. He used her name. Leah thought, "He knows my name. How?" "I told no one." "I apologize for coming here," Harrison continued. "I needed to speak with you privately about the other day." "You are safe, sir," Leah replied. Her voice was calm. "I told you to be careful." Leah thought, "He followed me." The rich always find what they want. They always want something. "I was not careful," Harrison admitted. "And you saved my life. I have come here to make a proposal, not payment. A business proposition." Leah remained silent. Her eyes focused on the crisp legal paper in his hand. Leah thought, a contract. That means control. They always try to control. "It is a contract, Leah," Harrison explained. "It is ironclad. It is not about buying you. It is about a partnership, a safe place for both of us, a fortress against the world." Harrison pushed the document forward. Leah thought, "A fortress? My fortress is here, with them, but it is always cold." Harrison looked at the sleeping children. "I know what you do here. I know your purpose. I am offering you the resources to keep that purpose, without the danger. I need a truth teller in my world. You need a safe roof, heat, and education. It is an exchange, not a command." Leah looked at the contract. She looked at the stone oven. She looked at the sleeping children. The two worlds met in the silence of the cellar. Leah stood perfectly still, facing the man who represented everything she distrusted. Harrison had offered a binding contract and promised a fortress. Leah spoke first, her voice clear. "What exactly do you want, sir? I need the terms of your weakness." Leah thought, if he is truly honest about needing me, he must admit his failure. That is the only real currency. "I want the truth," Harrison replied, his voice showing years of solitude. "I need someone who saves a life without asking for payment. That act of simple, selfless truth is the only thing of value I have seen in decades. You will be my truth teller." "And the contract?" Leah challenged. "A contract always hides a chain. What are your rules for my captivity?" Harrison pushed the legal document closer. "The contract is a guarantee of security. It gives you shelter in my residence, food, new clothes, advanced education, and full medical care. In return, you provide companionship. You bring me tea, you read to me, you share meals with me. You are present. Your only true duty is to speak what you truly think." Leah countered with her main condition. "My rule is this. I do not work for money. I will not be your servant. I will not trade my autonomy for your comfort. The moment I see deception from you, or the moment I feel controlled, the agreement ends." Leah thought, I must define the boundary now. Freedom is not given, it is demanded. Harrison accepted immediately. "The contract guarantees your autonomy. Read it. It mandates security and resources from me. It mandates companionship from you. There are no clauses for obedience. You are free to leave at any moment." Leah pointed to the sleeping figures. "And the children here? If I leave this place, they lose the oven. They lose their source of food." Leah thought, this is the definitive test. If he fails this, he is like all the others. Harrison met her eyes. Their care is separate. The contract secures your future. I will secure their present. Mark and his team will implement a continuous, non-contact supply chain. They will bring food, water, blankets, and supplies here every day. They will not interact with the children. They will simply deliver the goods. This action is separate from your agreement. It is my proof of good faith. Leah touched the contract paper. The reality of the offer was overwhelming. She had to secure their survival. "Why me?" Leah asked. "You can hire an army of actors to tell you lies." "I have hired them," Harrison said. "They are waiting for me to die. You, Leah, value a piece of bread more than $1 million. That is a kind of integrity that my world cannot create. That is why I need you." He focused his eyes on the critical point. "My home is full of betrayal. My nephew Gavin, my CFO Miss Crow, my lawyer Jameson. They are all working to have me removed. They need to see me weak. I need a clear observer. I need you to simply observe my world and tell me the plain truth of what you see. You are my strategic ally." Leah considered the entire structure, the security for the children, the promise of education, the demand for honesty. Leah thought, I can use his power to achieve my purpose. He needs a mirror. I can be that mirror. Leah added her final conditions. I have 3 non-negotiable terms. First, education must be guaranteed and immediate. Second, I will eat all meals with you at the main table as an equal, not as a guest or servant. Harrison nodded. Agreed. Education starts tomorrow. The table is where we will discuss strategy. What is the third term? The food I prepare for you must be simple food, Leah stated. No complex, rich food. I want to prepare simple bread and tea for you myself. That is the service I will provide. I will not let you eat the food of lies. Harrison almost laughed. Simple food. Agreed. Your bread and tea are now the only mandatory meals. Leah made her commitment. I will come. I will work. I will be your assistant. I will tell you the truth. But the moment you break your word about the IEC, children, about my freedom, or about the honesty, I will disappear without warning. I promise you, Harrison affirmed, extending his open hand. Leah ignored the handshake. She picked up the legal document, she folded it tightly and placed it inside her shirt. It was her protection. I am ready now, Leah said. My clothes are on my back. My job here is finished for tonight. Harrison looked at Mark. She needs to be secured immediately. Arrange transport. Leah walked to the sleeping area. She gently covered a small girl with a blanket. She placed a large stack of fresh flatbreads next to the sleeping children, ensuring they would eat in the morning. She said a silent goodbye to the only safety she had ever built for herself. She walked back to Harrison, he moved his chair, and they left the warmth of the cellar for the cold night air. Mark rushed the black van to the alley entrance. He saw the shift in his boss, the return of purpose. Mark! Harrison commanded as they entered the van. Call the surveillance team. The mission changes. The supply drop starts at dawn. Fresh water, thick blankets, durable food, no contact. The supplies must be seamless. This is the foundation of the entire strategy. Understood, sir, Mark replied. Leah sat quietly. She looked out the window at the condemned building as the van drove away. She was not leaving her mission, she was elevating it. She was moving to the center of power, armed only with her truth. The first phase of the war had begun. The black van arrived at Harrison's penthouse tower. Mark drove directly into the secure underground garage. The transition was immediate, from the cracked pavement of the street to the sterile, polished environment of wealth. Leah stepped out. She still held the contract inside her shirt. Mark spoke. Leah, this way. We use the private entrance. They took a quiet, rapid elevator. The doors opened directly into the penthouse. The air was cool and silent. A woman in a perfectly tailored dark uniform, the house manager, stood waiting. She was clearly unhappy with the late arrival. Mark, what is the meaning of this intrusion? The manager demanded. Mr. Wells is resting. Who is this child? This is a disruption. Mark positioned himself between the manager and Leah. She is a new, permanent member of the household. She reports only to Mr. Wells. This is Leah. You will arrange her suite immediately. It must be secured and functional. The manager looked at Leah's worn clothes with disbelief. A permanent suite? Mark, this is impossible. Has Mr. Wells lost all judgment? He signed a binding contract an hour ago. Mark replied, his voice firm. Leah is exempt from all staff hierarchy. She eats with Mr. Wells, and she answers only to him. You will not question her movements. You will arrange for a private tutor to arrive at 8 in the morning. The manager controlled her reaction but did not hide her displeasure. I will prepare the necessary arrangements. The Rose Suite. Wait, Leah interjected, speaking directly to the manager. Before the suite, where is the kitchen? The manager was startled by the child's directness. The kitchen is a staff area. Why do you need it? I am Mr. Wells's assistant, Leah stated. I prepare his first meal. Simple bread and tea. I need to know the layout now. I need the ingredients tomorrow. Mark confirmed the order. Do as she asks. Immediately. The manager led Leah away. Mark proceeded to Harrison's study. Harrison was waiting by the vast glass wall. The city lights spread below him like cold jewels. Welcome, Leah, Harrison said as she returned with Mark. You are inside the fortress. Did you secure the kitchen information? Yes, sir, Leah confirmed. The manager is a threat. She dislikes me. Leah thought, if the staff opposes me, they will oppose him. That is the first layer of truth. She dislikes anything that changes her control, Harrison said. Now, we must talk about the serious threats. My enemies. Leah sat in a simple armchair, focused on his words. Tell me their weaknesses. There are 3 primary threats inside these walls, Harrison began. Gavin Wells, my nephew. He wants the company by right. He is impulsive. He will use any sign of mental instability to act. Miss Crow, the chief financial officer. She is cold, strategic, and controls all financial data. She will use complex numbers and legal jargon to build a case that I am reckless. Jameson, my primary corporate lawyer, he is the most dangerous. He is the official knife. He will write the legal petition to declare me incompetent. He will create the paper trail. Leah stated the clear fact. They are waiting for you to fail so they can take everything. They are preparing the court action now, Harrison confirmed. They need clear public proof of my decline. Your presence is the first crucial countermeasure. Why am I a countermeasure? Leah asked. You are proof of my clear judgment, Harrison explained. They will argue I am erratic. I will argue I chose a 12-year-old truth-teller from the street over the counsel of every self-serving advisor. I chose honesty over profit. They cannot logically attack that choice because they cannot comprehend unselfishness. My task remains observation, Leah confirmed. Yes, Harrison instructed. The staff will test you. Gavin will test you. Crow will watch you. They will try to find your personal motive. You must continue to be exactly who you are. Ask the simple questions. Do not try to impress them. Use your absolute honesty as the only weapon. Report to me everything that seems illogical, dishonest, or wrong in their behavior. I understand, Leah confirmed. I will report the truth. The manager returned. The Rose Suite is ready, Mr. Wells. She is now settled. Harrison looked at the clock. Mark, arrange for the security team to have their first supply drop at the condemned building at 5 a.m. Make it discreet, no visibility. Understood, sir. The supply line is active. Harrison looked at Leah. Rest now. We begin work tomorrow. I expect you at the dining table at 7 sharp. We will eat together. You will prepare the tea. Leah stood up. Good night, sir. The supply drop is the priority. She left the study. Harrison turned to Mark. Did you hear her priorities, Mark? She didn't ask about the comfortable bed. She asked about the delivery of supplies. She is loyal to her mission. She is unusual, sir, Mark agreed. She is the solution, Harrison corrected. Now we begin the misinformation campaign. I want you to start planting minor-controlled rumors. Tell Gavin I have begun selling off core assets for cash. Tell Crow I have signed several documents without reading them. Give them bait. We will see who moves the fastest and the most recklessly. Mark nodded, understanding the strategy. The partnership with Leah had started the legal and corporate war. The game was now in motion. Leah was taken to the Rose Suite. It was a large, luxurious room, far more vast than her entire cellar. She looked at the expensive soft bed. Leah thought, this is only a tool. It is warm and it is safe. That is its only value. She did not use the shower. She did not touch the expensive nightwear. She sat on the edge of the bed in her own clothes. She pulled out the contract. She read every line again, confirming the terms of her freedom and the commitment to the other children. She confirmed the promise of education. She waited for the manager to leave. Once the door clicked, Leah moved to the window. She pulled back the heavy curtain. She looked out at the city. She located the dark area where the condemned building stood. She felt the heavy burden of the contract. She was inside the enemy's castle, and her mission was only beginning. She needed to be ready for the morning. The black van stopped. Mark drove the vehicle directly into the secure, silent heart of Harrison's tower. The garage was vast, empty, and polished. Leah stepped out. She looked up at the ceiling. The space is too large for its purpose. A waste of material. Mark ignored the comment. He led her to a private elevator. The elevator moved rapidly. The doors opened directly into the penthouse. Harrison, still in his chair, was waiting as the doors opened. This design is inefficient, Leah immediately observed, looking across the immense living area. Too much space between the entrance and the destination. Harrison watched her closely. It is designed to show that distance is irrelevant to power, Leah. A house manager, precise and formal, approached quickly. She directed her question only to Mark. Mark, this intrusion is unacceptable. The late hour. Who is this child? She is a disruption. Mark stood between the manager and Leah. This is Leah. She is a permanent, secured assistant to Mr. Wells. She is exempt from all staff protocol. Arrange her room immediately. The manager stared at Leah's simple appearance. A secured suite? Mark, this is unprecedented. It requires background checks. Leah spoke directly to the manager. I need a key, and I need to know the location of the private laundry room now. The manager was taken aback. The laundry? That is not for... My clothes are my own responsibility, Leah interrupted. They are the clothes I work in. I wash them myself. Where is the private facility? Harrison intervened, his voice carrying the final word. The manager will show you the private facility, Leah. You will find that I honor the terms of our contract, which guarantee your autonomy. The manager's face showed clear resentment, but she had to obey. Very well, I will prepare a suite. No suite, Leah stated. A simple room with one door and one window. Suites have too many ways for unauthorized entry. Harrison thought, she rejects every comfort that compromises security. Total self-reliance. Harrison nodded to the manager. Arrange a functional guest room, not a suite, now, and ensure the kitchen layout is clearly marked for her immediate access. Leah returned to the study after settling the room arrangement. Harrison was waiting by the window. They hate me, Leah observed, sitting down. The staff will report everything. They hate the lack of control you represent. Harrison corrected. Now, we prepare for the official battle. My 3 threats. Gavin, Crow, Jameson. They are the immediate danger. Tell me the rules of their attack, Leah asked. They will use 3 angles, Harrison began. Gavin uses emotion, claiming I am senile. Crow uses finance, claiming reckless spending. Jameson uses the law, claiming legal incapacity. They will all try to find your price. They will try to prove you are either a gold digger or a hostage. I am neither, Leah stated. That is the key. Harrison agreed. They will not understand that. You are the living proof of my clear judgment. They will argue I am erratic. I will counter. I chose the only honest person I found. I chose truth over lies. They cannot logically defeat that statement because they don't understand truth. My task remains observation and honesty, Leah confirmed. Exactly, Harrison instructed. They will test you. They will watch your reactions. They will try to find a weakness in your story. You must remain exactly who you are. Ask the simplest questions. Report what you see that is illogical or dishonest. I will report the truth, Leah confirmed. What if your own actions contradict the truth? If you see a lie from me, you report it to me immediately and privately, Harrison said. If I refuse to correct it, you are free to walk away. That is your ultimate contract power. Mark re-entered the room with a silent motion. Sir, the surveillance reports the supply drop area is secure. The team is in position for the 5 a.m. drop. Good, Harrison confirmed. The contract is secured. Now, business. Leah, I need to know the daily schedule. I want to review the day's schedule now, Leah stated. What time does Gavin arrive? What time does Crow call? I must prepare my observations. Gavin arrives at 9 for a brief meeting. Crow calls at 10:30 for a financial review, Harrison explained. You will be with me for both. You will observe Gavin's body language and Crow's questions. Leah looked out the window. I need to know the basic security code for this building. Just the perimeter code and the emergency exit procedure. Mark tensed immediately. Sir, that information is highly sensitive. Give her the code and the procedure, Mark, Harrison commanded. She is now a security layer. A secure room is useless if you cannot escape it when the threat is inside the room. Harrison thought, her need for an exit is absolute. I must provide every tool for her independence. Mark reluctantly gave Leah the simple 4-digit code and explained the emergency path. Leah memorized it without writing it down. I will be in the kitchen at 6:30 to prepare the simple bread and tea, Leah stated. I will see you at 7 sharp for the first meal. Harrison watched her leave the study with a look of intense purpose. He spoke to Mark. Did you note her priorities? She asked for the escape route, not a comfortable place to sleep. She trusts only action. She is a dangerous variable, sir, Mark observed. She is the solution they cannot predict, Harrison corrected. Now, the misinformation campaign. I want you to start planting 3 separate rumors immediately. Tell Gavin I have started selling off core assets for cash. Tell Miss Crow I have authorized a massive unsecured loan to an unknown entity. Tell Jameson I am rewriting my will to disinherit my family. We watch who moves first. Mark confirmed the orders. They will all move, sir. It is too much bait. Good, Harrison said. The moment they move, the legal clock starts. Leah is the shield. They will attack the shield because they won't understand its composition. Mark looked at the door. And the tutors? They arrive at 8. Their first subject is corporate law and the language of legal capacity. Leah needs to speak their language to defeat them. Leah entered her small assigned room. She found simple, practical cotton clothes laid out. She put them on immediately. She checked the window latch and the door lock. She did not turn on the lights. She sat on the edge of the bed in the darkness, the folded contract against her chest. She was resting, but she was fully aware, preparing for the first day of her new mission. Leah woke before the alarm. She dressed in the simple cotton clothes provided. She checked the emergency code in her memory. She walked immediately to the kitchen. The kitchen was enormous and impersonal. A chef and 2 assistants were working silently. Leah spoke to the chef. Good morning. I need the simplest flour, yeast, and water, and the plainest black tea. The chef, a massive man named Jean-Pierre, looked down at her. This is the primary residence kitchen. We prepare haute cuisine. We do not bake peasant bread. Leah opened a cabinet. I am Mr. Wells's assistant. My first duty is to prepare his simple bread and tea. Where is the basic flour? Jean-Pierre, seeing the seriousness in her eyes, pointed reluctantly to a storage area. In the back, but the bread will be terrible. Leah ignored him. She quickly found the ingredients. She checked the oven's temperature. She worked efficiently, kneading the dough quickly. The simple loaf was ready at 6:50. At 7 o'clock, Leah entered the grand dining room. Harrison was already seated at the head of the long polished table. Leah placed a small plate with a fresh, warm loaf and a steaming mug of black tea next to his chair. "Good morning, sir," Leah said. "Good morning, Leah," Harrison replied. "It smells like an honest meal." Leah sat down, not at his side but across from him, as an equal. The house manager watched from the doorway, rigid with disapproval. Harrison began the conversation. The first briefing. Mark confirmed the supply drop at 5 sharp. No contact with the children. The supplies are safe. Good, Leah confirmed. The contract is honored. Now, your task today. Gavin arrives at 9. He will be angry about the rumored stock sale. Miss Crow calls at 10:30. She will try to confuse me with numbers. You observe their dishonesty. At 8 o'clock, the private tutor arrived. His name was Mr. Elias. He was a distinguished elderly man. He was ready to teach history. Harrison stopped him. Mr. Elias, the curriculum changes. We start with corporate law, specifically the definitions of legal incapacity, fiduciary duty, and hostile takeover. Use the current court documents as the textbook. Mr. Elias looked confused but obeyed. Leah spent the next hour absorbing the hostile language of the law. She asked direct, simple questions, cutting through the legal jargon to the core intent. At 9 sharp, Gavin Wells entered the study. Gavin was tall, dressed expensively, and walked with an air of self-importance. He saw Leah immediately. "Uncle Harrison," Gavin said, ignoring Leah. "I need to speak to you privately. What is this ridiculous rumor about selling the industrial complex? And who is this child?" Harrison looked at Leah. "Leah, this is Gavin, my nephew. Gavin, this is Leah, my new personal assistant." Gavin laughed, a short, sharp sound. "Assistant? Don't be absurd, uncle. Get her out of here. We need to discuss corporate strategy." "Leah stays," Harrison stated. "She prepares my tea and she hears all my business. She is under contract." Gavin finally looked at Leah, scanning her from head to foot. "So, you're the new pet. Have you bought her a leash yet?" Leah spoke. "I have a contract, Mr. Wells. Not a leash. My contract guarantees my freedom. Do you have a contract that guarantees yours?" Gavin was stunned by the directness. "My freedom is guaranteed by my family name. My blood." "The blood of a corporation is money, not family," Leah replied. "And money can be spent." Gavin turned back to Harrison, furious. "You are erratic, uncle. You are proving the board's fears. Selling the complex to raise cash, and now this circus? You are losing control." "I am controlling the narrative, Gavin," Harrison corrected. "The sale is a rumor. It was designed to see who reacts first. You reacted first with fury. You prioritize assets over my well-being." "Of course I prioritize assets," Gavin shouted. "That is what men in our position do." Leah spoke again. "You value the buildings more than the man who owns them. That is why he does not trust you." Gavin looked ready to strike. Harrison simply watched the exchange, a look of profound satisfaction growing on his face. Gavin regained control. He tried a different tactic. He focused on Leah. "Tell me, assistant, how much did he pay you for this performance? We can triple it. Tell us what you know about the secret accounts." Leah shook her head. "I told him I do not work for money. I work for the truth. If I took your money, I would have to lie to you. I do not lie." Gavin realized the girl was not a servant. He ended the meeting quickly. "I will return later, uncle. This conversation is not over." Gavin left the study. Harrison watched him go. "First encounter complete," Harrison said. "Your assessment, Leah." "He is weak," Leah stated. "He focuses on the rumor instead of the contract. He believes money is the only motivation. He will miscalculate. Leah thought, he did not understand the simple logic of my contract. He is easy to predict. Exactly, Harrison said. He is predictable. Now, Miss Crow, she is more subtle. She calls in 30 minutes. Harrison and Leah continued the lesson on legal terms. Leah quickly grasped the concepts of a legal loophole and a document trap. At 10:30, Miss Crow called on the secure video line. She was precise, calm, and utterly cold. Harrison, Miss Crow began. The market is reacting to instability. The rumor about the asset sale has caused severe anxiety. We need to issue a retraction immediately. No retraction, Harrison said. I wanted to see the market's reaction. I am considering a strategic move. Miss Crow's eyes narrowed as she saw Leah on the screen. Who is the other party on this line, Harrison? This is a confidential financial call. This is Leah, my personal assistant and advisor, Harrison replied. Miss Crow's voice became sharper. Advisor? Harrison, you are discussing billions. This is highly inappropriate. This child cannot possibly understand the definition of EBITDA or the complexities of leveraged debt. Leah cut in. EBITDA is simply what is left before you pay your debts. It is a number. Numbers are easy to understand. They only become complex when you use them to hide the truth. Miss Crow was momentarily speechless. You are completely out of line, child. This is not a discussion for a person of your background. My background is simple, Leah replied. Simple numbers are always honest. Your numbers are designed to be complex. What are you hiding with the complexity? Harrison leaned in. Miss Crow, Leah asks an excellent question. Why are our financial reports always 300 pages long? Why is the simple profit hidden behind jargon? Miss Crow regained control. The complexity is a legal requirement, Harrison, to protect the assets. If you are having trouble understanding the reports, I recommend that you step back from daily operations. Leah thought, she is using complexity as a weapon. She is trying to make him feel stupid. This is her first attack. She thinks I am confused, Harrison murmured to Leah. Leah addressed Miss Crow. You speak of protecting assets, but you are trying to make the owner feel unsafe. Your fiduciary duty is to him, not to the assets. Your loyalty is inverted. Miss Crow stared at the girl. She realized this child was not a distraction. She was a clear threat to her manipulation. I will send Mark the full legal documentation regarding your recent behavior, Harrison, Miss Crow concluded, her voice laced with finality. This situation requires immediate board intervention. She disconnected the call. Harrison sat back, a hint of steel in his eyes. She moved. That was the opening move. She will call Jamieson now. Your assessment, Leah. She is cold, but she is afraid of simple questions, Leah said. She will attack with paperwork. We must read the documents before she sends them to the board. You are right, Harrison agreed. We need to prepare the counter-argument before the ink is dry. Mark, call Stern. We need a legal defense strategy based on the principle of simple honesty versus deliberate complexity. We have a battle to win. Harrison ended the secure video call with Miss Crow. The study felt heavier than before. He looked at Leah, who remained seated, still observing. Crow has launched the first official attack, Harrison stated. The legal paper trail is moving. She will compile a dossier of every unusual action, the rumors, the contract, the supply drop, and use it as the basis for a petition of incapacity. We have a limited window before it reaches the full board. Paper is a weapon only, when its purpose is hidden, Leah said. What is the simplest lie she can tell with those papers? Leah thought, find the single, most vulnerable point. The rest is noise. The noise is always about money. The simplest lie is financial recklessness, Harrison replied. She will claim I am erratic, spending corporate funds on an unsecured contract and an unsanctioned supply line. This is the definition of mismanagement. Harrison immediately initiated a call with his private lawyer, Stern. Stern, immediate action is required, Harrison commanded. Miss Crow is moving paperwork. I need you to draft a statement today. The core theme is simple honesty versus deliberate complexity. Stern's voice crackled over the speaker. Mr. Wells, we need a legal counterargument proving competency, not a philosophical essay. We need precedent. The precedent is the man, Stern, Harrison insisted. We will state that Miss Crow deliberately complicates the company's reports using obscure jargon to prevent full transparency. We will argue that my engagement of Leah is the clearest proof of my sound judgment, demonstrating my desire for unvarnished truth over their deliberate obfuscation. Use the contract as Exhibit A of my clarity. Leah reached for the secure phone. Mr. Stern, this is Leah. When you write the defense, do not use any word that requires a dictionary. Use short, simple sentences. If the board cannot understand the counterargument instantly, they will assume the complex lie is correct. Clarity is the defense. Stern hesitated. A child is dictating the legal briefing, Mr. Wells? This confirms the rumors. It confirms my renewed capacity, Stern, Harrison said, taking the phone back. Follow her direction precisely. Send the draft in 90 minutes. It must be unassailable in its simplicity. Harrison hung up. Harrison turned to Leah. Action on the financial front is critical. The supply line must be formalized. We must make the expense unassailable. The cost must be moved from the corporate ledger to the ethical ledger, Leah stated. It proves competence because it shows foresight. You must fund the supply line personally and immediately, showing it is a choice, not an expense. Harrison executed the move instantly. He contacted his personal banker on a separate line. Transfer a sum sufficient for 2 years of operation to a new non-corporate foundation. Name it, the Open Oven Foundation. Draft the purpose. To ensure basic sustenance and ethical educational opportunity for the city's unseen children, overseen by Harrison Wells. The funds are secured and transferred, Harrison confirmed to Leah. Crow can no longer claim reckless corporate spending. We established a private, charitable structure which is proof of sound moral and financial judgment. Action complete, Leah confirmed. Now security. Mark, she called to the security chief, who was working quietly nearby. I need a full briefing on the physical security measures, specifically the air handling system and the key protocols. Mark was clearly uneasy. The air system is purely environmental, Leah. It is too complex to breach. If they cannot remove Mr. Wells with paper, they must try with force or stealth, Leah explained calmly. A simulated emergency from the air system can create the necessary confusion for extraction. What is the single biggest physical vulnerability that relies on a human operator? Mark hesitated, looking at Harrison. Harrison nodded permission. The service elevator override key, Mark admitted. It allows access to this floor without the electronic authentication. It is held by the house manager, per protocol. Leah's eyes narrowed. The house manager. She dislikes me. She has motivation to cooperate with Gavin. She is the weakest human link. Leah thought, dislike is a powerful motivator. It can be used as a key. Harrison immediately gave the command, escalating the countermeasure. Mark, the override key is neutralized immediately. Furthermore, I want every primary key in this residence, the house managers, the chefs, the private staffs, recoded within the hour. No physical override keys are permitted on this floor. This is a fortress. We assume everyone is a vulnerability. Mark left the room with speed. Security was tightened. Immediately after, Jamieson, the corporate lawyer, called back. Harrison, I've read Stern's draft. Jamieson's voice was strained. It is legally insufficient. It relies on moral argument, not established code. This Open Oven Foundation is proof of philanthropic recklessness. You are exposed. I am exposed to simple honesty, Jamieson, Harrison countered. That is my choice. You deal in documentation, I deal in decision. I made a clear decision to trust honesty. Leah took the phone again. Mr. Jamieson, you said the contract had no precedent. If it has no precedent, how can you use precedent to judge it? You fear the contract because it is a clear decision. Why does a lawyer fear clarity? Jamison's response was clipped. I fear the outcome of emotional decisions, child. They destroy stability. Stability based on complex lies is not stability. Leah countered. It is a carefully constructed trap. You are part of the trap, Mr. Jamison. That is why you fear the truth. Jamison ended the call abruptly. He could not argue against the simple, unassailable logic. Harrison looked at Leah, immensely satisfied. They are all predictable. Gavin fears loss of inheritance. Crow fears transparency. Jamison fears anything that deviates from the rulebook. We have countered all three psychological attacks. Harrison leaned back. Now we wait. We have neutralized the paper attack, formalized the expense as investment, secured the premises, and silenced the lawyer. Tomorrow, the board will formally call for a meeting. We move into the next phase. Defense through demonstration. You must be ready to speak at that meeting. Leah nodded. I will be ready. I have read the legal definitions. I understand the game. Harrison stood up from his chair. We need to practice. Leah, summarize in one sentence why I chose you as my assistant, using the language of fiduciary duty. Leah thought for a moment. You chose me because my absolute honesty is the greatest single asset to the company, protecting your decision-making capacity from internal corruption. Harrison smiled. Perfect. You understand the rules of the fortress. Leah was in the kitchen at 6 sharp. She quickly prepared the simple loaf, kneading the dough with precise, economical movements. Jean-Pierre, the chef, watched from a distance. He still looked annoyed but offered no comment. The house manager was nowhere to be seen. The security changes had kept her confined to her duties. At 7, Leah placed the bread and tea before Harrison in the study. The board meeting is at 9, Harrison stated, taking a bite of the simple bread. The room is cold. The air is always thick with hostility. They want me to appear confused. You will appear prepared, Leah countered, sitting across from him. We must assume Jamison has already distributed Crow's entire dossier. What is the single most damaging piece of paper they have? Leah thought, I must predict their emotional climax. The paper only matters if it creates doubt. The contract with you, Harrison replied. They will frame it as an irrational, impulsive act of a man losing his grasp on reality. They will ask why I paid a child to be my assistant. You did not pay me, Leah corrected. You exchanged resources for loyalty and truth. We will use the contract's simplicity as the ultimate defense. I will speak only when asked. I will speak only the truth. At 8, Mr. Elias arrived. The lesson was brief and intense. Leah summarized the legal concept of coercion versus sound judgment in 2 sentences. Leah responded immediately. Coercion is action taken under duress from another party. Sound judgment is action taken based on clear ethical principles and foresight. The contract shows foresight. Harrison nodded, satisfied. We are ready. Mark, the secure line to Stern is open. He holds the counter-statement. At 8:55, Harrison and Leah entered the massive, polished conference room. 7 members of the board were already seated. Gavin Wells sat stiffly, smiling falsely. Miss Crow was precise, flanked by a stack of documents. Jamison, the corporate lawyer, waited at the head of the table. Harrison navigated his chair to the center position. Leah stood silently beside him, holding no notes, simply observing. Jamison cleared his throat. We are assembled to review the status of Harrison Wells, CEO. This meeting addresses a petition of concern regarding his recent erratic decision-making, filed by the CFO, Miss Crow, and others. Gavin spoke first, his voice dripping with false sympathy. Uncle Harrison, this is difficult, but your recent choices, the unfounded stock rumors, the engagement of an unknown individual, suggest a concerning decline in judgment. Miss Crow pushed a folder across the table. The evidence is clear, gentlemen. Exhibit A is the immediate hiring of a minor from the street on an unverified open-ended contract. This is financially reckless and ethically compromising. We ask for temporary administrative leave. Leah broke the silence. She spoke before Harrison could reply. I am Leah. I am not a financial exhibit. I am the result of Mr. Wells's sound judgment. Gavin laughed, a sharp, dismissive sound. You are a child. Your opinion is irrelevant to fiduciary responsibility. Fiduciary responsibility is loyalty to the principal, Leah countered, addressing the board. Your loyalty, Mr. Wells, is to the corporate assets. You claim Mr. Wells is erratic because he hired me. Yet my contract contains no financial payment clause. It guarantees only autonomy, safety, and education. What part of investing in absolute honesty is irrational? Miss Crow took over, her voice sharp. The contract does guarantee resources, which is an expenditure. Furthermore, he is funding an unsanctioned supply line to a derelict property. This is a clear misdirection of resources. Harrison finally spoke, his voice strong and clear. I agree. The resource allocation was unsanctioned corporate spending. That expenditure has been corrected. The board exchanged confused glances. The spending on the supply line has been removed entirely from the corporate ledger, Harrison announced. It has been transferred in full to a new, non-corporate entity. I have personally funded it for 2 years. He looked at Jameson. Mr. Jameson, please read the statement regarding the Open Oven Foundation. Jameson, stunned, read the emergency statement Stern had prepared. The Open Oven Foundation, funded solely by the personal assets of Harrison Wells, is established to provide basic sustenance and ethical educational support to underserved children in the community. It operates entirely outside of Wells Global Holdings. Gavin stood up, furious. You turned a reckless expense into a massive personal charitable deduction. You planned this. I planned to correct a mistake, Harrison replied. I used my personal fortune to prove my ethical clarity and my capacity for foresight. Miss Crow claimed I was losing control of the assets. I have just proven the opposite. I control them completely and can deploy them with speed and moral purpose. Leah stepped forward. She looked at Miss Crow. You claimed he was irrational for seeking honesty. He corrected the financial error before the board meeting, using his personal resources. You moved a paper trap. He moved an ethical correction. Whose actions show more foresight, the one who complains or the one who corrects? Miss Crow could not answer. Her entire argument, financial recklessness, was neutralized by Harrison's immediate formal action. Jameson looked defeated. The grounds for filing the petition of incapacity based on financial mismanagement are severely weakened. Gavin tried one last time. But the girl, her influence is proof of an unstable mind. Leah addressed the entire board. My influence is limited to one word: truth. If Mr. Wells asks me a question, I give him the simplest, most direct answer, free of self-interest. If the board is worried that Mr. Wells is seeking truth, then perhaps you fear what the truth will reveal about your own operations. The chairman of the board, an older man named Mr. Finch, finally intervened. Mr. Wells, you have demonstrated a clear, precise understanding of both the corporate threats and the necessary ethical countermeasures. The establishment of the foundation proves clear moral and financial capacity. He addressed the board. The petition is rejected. Harrison Wells retains full executive control. Harrison looked at Leah. A slight, almost invisible nod passed between them. The fortress was defended. Gavin stormed out of the room. Miss Crow gathered her papers, her face pale. Harrison looked at Jameson. You did your job, Jameson, but you served the paper, not the man. You need to review your priorities. Harrison pushed his chair back. Leah, let us return to the study. I need tea. The first battle of the fortress was won by simple truth and simple bread. Harrison and Leah returned to the study immediately after the board meeting. Harrison sat at his desk. Leah stood by the window, watching the distant, ordinary movement of the city below. The first battle is won, Harrison stated, his voice calm. But the war has only changed its methods. The external attack is defeated. The internal sabotage begins now. Gavin will not stop, Leah observed. He saw the foundation. He knows the vulnerability is no longer the finances. It is you. He will attack your health or your judgment in small, untraceable ways. Leah thought, defeat makes an enemy reckless. Recklessness is easier to predict. Exactly, Harrison agreed. The vultures will change their tactics. Miss Crow will now use her power to delay or complicate the foundation's funding. Jameson will search every contract for a hidden breach clause. And Gavin will be present, always watching. Mark entered the study quietly. Sir, security update. The house manager reported a fault in the service elevator system that required manual inspection. She also requested immediate leave for stress. Deny the leave, Harrison commanded. And the service elevator fault? It was a false alarm, sir, Mark reported. But it gave her 5 minutes, alone near the wiring closet. We found nothing, but the timing is suspicious. Leah turned from the window. She knows she is the weakest link. She is testing the new security. The fault was the house manager testing if her access was truly removed. She is reporting to Gavin. A test of the fortress integrity, Harrison mused. Mark, initiate a rolling sweep of the study and my suite every 4 hours. Assume every member of the staff is compromised. Mark left immediately. Harrison looked at Leah. The enemy is now closer than ever. We need to accelerate your knowledge. Mr. Elias is waiting. Mr. Elias entered with a stack of old company contracts. Today we study the legal definition of conflict of interest and undue influence. Leah sat down. Mr. Elias, use a clear example. Who in this company has a conflict of interest that is hidden? Mr. Elias explained. Miss Crow, the CFO. Her duty is to the company. But she owns shares in a rival company that sells raw materials. If she buys inferior materials for us, our stock falls, and her rival's stock rises. That is a conflict. Leah processed the information. So she is loyal to her own wallet, not to the company's health. We need to prove she bought the bad materials. Harrison nodded, impressed. We need concrete proof, Leah, not suspicion. But we must act on the suspicion now. The lesson was interrupted by a knock. It was Jean-Pierre, the chef. He looked deeply offended. Mr. Wells? Jean-Pierre began, addressing Harrison but looking at Leah. I must complain. This child demands to bake bread in my kitchen. She uses the best flour for her peasant food, disturbing my inventory. She causes disruption. It is unbearable. Leah stood up calmly. Chef, I use basic, simple flour. The bread is the only simple food Mr. Wells eats. You prepare food designed to impress guests, not to sustain health. Why do you use the best flour for food that is immediately served, but the worst flour for the bread I use daily? Jean-Pierre stammered. I use the flour that is provided for the primary cooking. It is the standard. No, Leah pressed. The contract specifies simple bread. If you hide the inferior flour and force me to use the expensive flour, you are creating a financial discrepancy. That could be used as evidence of my recklessness. Did Miss Crow ask you to complain about my flour usage? Jean-Pierre paled. I simply object to the disruption. I want to maintain the integrity of my kitchen. Harrison intervened, his voice quiet but sharp. Jean-Pierre, I trust Leah's judgment. From this moment, you will report all inventory discrepancies and supply chain issues to her first. You will only use the most basic functional ingredients for my personal meals. You will submit your full itemized ingredient ledger to Mark by the end of the day. You are dismissed. Jean-Pierre left quickly, visibly shaken. Harrison thought, they are testing her financial integrity through the kitchen. They think a child can be tricked with food expenses. Leah looked at Harrison. They are using small personal attacks. The manager tried the security. The chef tried the finances. They are searching for my price. And they are finding only honesty. Harrison smiled. But we must use their actions. Mark will now review every ingredient purchase Jean-Pierre made in the last year. If Miss Crow has a conflict of interest with a supplier, we will find it in the kitchen ledger. Harrison turned to the window. Now, the next phase. Defense is no longer enough. We must attack the source of the rot. We need to find the evidence of Miss Crow's conflict of interest. How? Leah asked. She hides behind complex numbers. We use simplicity, Harrison said. Mark will create a separate, simple ledger for all corporate spending. No jargon, only who received the money, what was delivered, and was the price fair. We will give that ledger to a junior board member we trust, Mr. Chen. Chen fears complexity as much as he fears losing money. He will see the truth instantly. Leah stood by the desk. The simple ledger will expose her complexity. But we need a distraction for Gavin. He is too emotional to wait. He will try to approach me directly. He will, Harrison agreed. He will offer you money, a bribe to betray me. He will offer the one thing he thinks I truly value, Leah predicted. Security for the children. He will offer to take over the Open Oven Foundation. He will try to make it seem ethical. Harrison looked at her with a new level of respect. You see the emotional trap. What is the counter move? When he makes the offer, I will agree to nothing, Leah said. I will tell him that the foundation's legal structure is irreversible, that the money is locked by the original statement of ethical intent. And I will tell him that his involvement would compromise the simple honesty of the mission. He fears simple honesty. You will turn his ethical offer into a moral liability for him, Harrison murmured. Leah, you are learning the architecture of power faster than any executive I have ever mentored. Tomorrow, we will set the trap for Gavin. Leah returned to the tutor. The lesson on undue influence suddenly became very real. She knew exactly how Gavin would try to influence her. She needed to learn the legal language to defeat his words. Leah was positioned by the desk an hour before Gavin's scheduled arrival. Harrison was on a secure line with Stern, their private attorney, reviewing the final details of the foundation's legal fortifications. Stern, confirm the irrevocable language in the Open Oven Charter, Harrison commanded. The key phrase is fiduciary duty to ethical purpose. It must be unassailable against a hostile takeover. It is secured, Mr. Wells. Stern confirmed. Any attempt by an outside party, especially a family member with demonstrable conflicts of interest, to redirect the assets or change the mission triggers an immediate legal freeze. The purpose is the ultimate firewall. Harrison disconnected the call, satisfied. He looked at Leah. Gavin is 20 minutes out. He believes he is negotiating for a piece of the empire. He is walking into a legal cage. He will not be subtle, Leah stated. He will appeal to my supposed self-interest, offering money. I will only appeal to his weakness, the appearance of moral clarity. Leah thought, emotional leverage is his weapon. Legal precision is mine. At 9:30, Harrison initiated the second concurrent attack. He called Mr. Chen. Chen, you have the simple ledger Mark provided, Harrison said, his voice flat and authoritative. I need you to confirm one number. What is the market cost for our primary copper composite? And what price did Miss Crow authorize? There was a silence on the line, tense and strained. Finally, Chen's voice returned, stripped of its usual timidity. Mr. Wells, I have reviewed the 300 pages of Crow's reports and the 4 simple pages of Mark's ledger. The difference is unacceptable. The cost difference for the copper composite alone is 35% over market. The purchase order was routed through a purchasing shell corporation. Harrison did not ask the final question. He let Chen say it. The shell corporation, Chen continued, his voice rising, is registered to a P. Crow, a relative of the CFO. This is not just a discrepancy, Harrison. This is systemic fraud. Thank you, Chen, Harrison said. You have done the corporation a great service. You will contact the chairman and every non-aligned board member immediately. Call for an emergency session based on actionable evidence of fiduciary malfeasance. We are moving from defense to counter-offense now. Harrison hung up. The trap is sprung, Leah. The simplicity of truth defeated the complexity of theft. Now for Gavin. 10 sharp. Gavin Wells entered the study. He ignored Harrison and placed a leather satchel on the desk, opening it to reveal crisp legal documents. Leah, Gavin began, his voice condescendingly warm. My uncle is failing. He is erratic and sentimental. But I understand the value of security. I am offering you the chance to stabilize your future and, more importantly, the future of those children. What is your offer? Leah asked, her gaze fixed entirely on his eyes. I will personally assume control of the Open Oven Foundation, Gavin stated, puffing up with corporate pride. My name provides legitimacy. In return, I will place a secure 7-figure trust fund in your name, tax-free, and you will sign this statement confirming my uncle's declining mental capacity. He gestured to the document. It is a simple exchange. Stability for the Ayuse Foundation. Wealth for you, and the corporation is saved from my uncle's madness. Leah shook her head slowly. You misunderstand the exchange. You do not offer stability. You offer compromise. Gavin's smile faltered. Don't be naive, child. This is real power. Take the money. The foundation is protected, Leah stated, stepping closer to the satchel. Its charter contains an ethical lockbox. If you, a relative with a history of conflict, attempt to assume control, it triggers an immediate forensic audit and legal freeze. The money is locked to its purpose, honesty and sustenance. Your involvement would make the sustenance dishonest. Gavin leaned over the desk, his voice dropping to a harsh whisper. You are lying. You have no legal power. You are a street child. You don't understand these documents. I understand the words in the documents, Leah countered, unmoving. And the words state that your self-interest is the very thing the foundation is designed to protect against. Your signature would destroy the ethical premise. I reject your bribe because the price is the truth, and I will not sell it. Gavin snatched the satchel, his face red with frustrated rage. He glanced at Harrison, who had watched the entire exchange silently. You will regret this, Harrison. Both of you, Gavin snarled before whirling around and slamming out of the study. Harrison watched the door. His pride is destroyed. That is more dangerous than his ambition. He will no longer seek corporate control. He will seek vengeance. Leah turned to Harrison. The paper attacks are over. The physical threat begins now. The secure phone on Harrison's desk immediately rang. It was Mark, his voice urgent. Sir, Jameson just tendered his immediate resignation, Mark reported. He cleaned out his personal office and left the building in a private car, moving towards the city's south side. Simultaneously, the house manager failed to clock out but has not been seen. Her staff reported her leaving with a large, unmarked bag. Jameson is advising Gavin on the illegal attack. Harrison confirmed, his eyes locking with Leah's. And the house manager is the physical asset. She knows the schedules, the routes, and the weak points. Mark, what is the status of the children in the cellar complex? They are secure, sir. The emergency extraction team is en route to move them to the alternate secure location. We are pulling them out now, Mark confirmed. Harrison stood up. This is the final escalation. They tried the board, they tried the bribe, and now they will try kidnapping or physical sabotage. Leah, you and I are now the target. Mark, lock down the penthouse immediately. No one in, no one out. The final battle will take place at the corporate level, but the threat is here. Leah nodded, already moving toward the security monitors. The fortress was under siege. The emergency board meeting was convened in Yei. The penthouse conference room precisely at 1:00 p.m. Harrison and Leah entered last. Miss Crow was already seated, her face pale but determined, flanked by a nervous outside counsel. Mr. Chen held the 4-page simple ledger openly on the table. The chairman, Mr. Finch, began the proceedings without preamble. We are here to review the motion for immediate termination of Miss Crow based on actionable evidence of financial malfeasance and breach of fiduciary duty, presented by Mr. Chen. Miss Crow's counsel immediately protested. This is an absurd breach of corporate procedure. The evidence presented is an unsigned, simplified summary. My client's 300-page quarterly report is the only legitimate document. Leah spoke, her voice clear and cutting through the procedural noise. The complexity of the 300-page report was the camouflage. The 4-page summary is the truth. Miss Crow authorized a 40% premium for raw materials, funneling the difference to a shell company owned by her family. When complexity hides corruption, the simple truth becomes the only legitimate procedure. Miss Crow jumped up, pointing a trembling finger at Leah. She is a child. This is undue influence. You are letting a minor dismantle my career with populist simplicity. Harrison finally intervened, his voice quiet but carrying absolute authority. Miss Crow, your career collapsed under the weight of your own deceit, not populist simplicity. Your reports were structurally designed to hide a crime. My choice to seek unvarnished truth, whether from Leah or from Mr. Chen's simplified ledger, proves my sound judgment. I asked for honesty. You gave us theft. Mr. Chen, emboldened by Harrison's support, spoke to the board. The evidence is irrefutable. We can pursue criminal charges. I move for immediate, irrevocable termination, effective immediately. The motion was called. It passed with a swift majority. Miss Crow sat down, her face defeated, as security guards moved to escort her out. Her counsel gathered his papers and hurried after her. Harrison did not allow the board to disperse. He addressed them directly. Gentlemen, this meeting is not adjourned. The successful removal of Miss Crow proves one thing. The corporate structure, as designed, is inherently vulnerable to internal corruption, greed, and hostile family interest. He looked directly at the seat where Gavin Wells usually sat. I am initiating the grand strategy, Harrison announced. I am executing an immediate, irrevocable restructuring of the company's controlling shares. I am establishing a blind management trust. The board erupted in murmurs. This was the ultimate defense, a permanent legal moat around the corporation. This trust will own the controlling interest, Harrison continued, holding up a dense legal folder. The charter of the trust is bound to 2 principles: absolute transparency in all financials and ethical sourcing for all materials. The fiduciary of this trust will be legally mandated to prioritize moral clarity over complex financial gain. Mr. Finch, the chairman, cautiously asked, "And who will be the executor of this trust, Harrison?" I will remain the sole executor for the immediate future, Harrison confirmed. But the charter names the successor based not on blood or seniority, but on demonstrated proven capacity for sound judgment, ethical priority, and simple honesty. This trust ensures the company will never again fall to the kind of internal rot we saw today. He looked at Leah, who stood silently beside him, the picture of clear intent. The board had no legal grounds to object. The company was now secured from future hostile family takeovers. Harrison quickly adjourned the meeting. He and Leah returned to the study, leaving the board members in shock. The corporate battle was won. The moment they reached the study, Mark appeared, his face grim. Sir, the status has escalated to code red. The children's movement was compromised. Explain, Harrison demanded, moving to the secure communication panel. The extraction team moving the children to the secondary site reported being intercepted by a non-company security detail, Mark explained rapidly. They were wearing unmarked tactical gear. The team managed to evade them, but we confirmed a visual ID on one of the interceptors. He is a former personal security consultant for Mr. Jameson. Leah stepped forward, her calm shattered by the threat to the children. Jameson sold his knowledge. Gavin hired the muscle. They know the secondary location now, too. They don't want the children as leverage. They want them as a public incident, Harrison countered, his mind racing. A dramatic failure of the foundation, proving my instability to the public. Mark, how far out is the extraction team? They are 5 minutes from the tertiary high-security site, Mark confirmed. But the interceptors are in pursuit. We are sending an armed escort. No, Leah said sharply. An armed escort will create a public incident. That is exactly what Gavin wants. We need a diversion, a massive, confusing distraction that forces them to abort the pursuit. Harrison looked at Leah, respecting the cold logic. Mark, initiate Operation Blinder. Trigger the fire suppression system in the 2 lowest levels of the Wells Global Headquarters immediately. Shut down all elevators in Tower 1. Create absolute, undeniable, chaotic panic at the primary corporate asset. Sir, that will cost millions in damage and cause a media storm, Mark warned. The media storm is the point, Harrison insisted. Gavin and Jameson want a small, focused incident. We are giving them a massive, chaotic emergency that draws all police, fire, and media attention. They will have to abandon the pursuit or be caught in the corporate chaos. Mark nodded, his eyes shining with professional resolve. Operation Blinder initiated. The primary site is going into lockdown. Harrison turned to Leah. The children will be secure now. But the physical threat remains. Gavin and Jameson know we are isolated here. They have lost the company and they have failed to capture the children. Their only remaining target is revenge on us. The fortress is under siege. Then we wait, Leah stated, her hand resting on the simple bread knife she kept on the desk. They will come here because they believe this is the final vulnerable point. They will come here, Harrison agreed, his gaze fixed on the secure study door. And they will walk into a trap that has been set since the moment you entered this fortress. The emergency lights in the penthouse study cast harsh, irregular shadows. Outside the skyscraper, the sirens from Operation Blinder, Harrison's strategic disaster at the tower base, wails faintly, drawing all official attention away from the penthouse. Harrison and Leah were cornered but calm. Mark stood at the secure console, his hand near a concealed button. They're here, sir. 2 intruders, Mark reported, his voice low and tight. Confirmed visual ID on the lead operative, Caney. Former Blackwatch security, specialized in untraceable extractions. They are moving through the secure filtration ducts towards the service hallway to breach the study. Gavin and Jameson are desperate, Harrison stated, leaning heavily on his desk. They believe this is a surgical, untraceable hit to prove my lack of control. They won't expect resistance and they certainly won't expect the truth. They are not looking for leverage, Leah observed, picking up the simple bread knife she habitually kept by her workspace. They are looking for finality. They want to remove the obstacle that exposed their corruption. Leah thought, if they use violence, the truth must be the weapon. The heavy steel door of the service hallway shuddered violently under the impact of a specialized ram. Mark immediately activated the recording system. No shooting, Mark, Harrison commanded, his voice steady. We need them alive. We need incontrovertible evidence of Gavin's conspiracy to commit kidnapping and assault against the legal executor of the Blind Management Trust. The door exploded inward, tearing the frame. Caney, a massive man in dark tactical gear, entered, followed by his partner, weapons raised. Caney, Harrison Wells, this is a simple, non-lethal extraction. We are taking the girl, as per our contract. You do not resist, you live. Harrison. Caney. You are working for Jameson. Jameson works for Gavin. You're trying to prove I'm unstable by making me a victim of violence. It won't work. The children are secure. The company is secured. Caney. Your corporate decisions are irrelevant now. We follow the contract. The contract states she is an unregistered liability. He advanced towards Leah. Leah. You risk decades in federal prison for a man who steals from his own company? Your loyalty is misplaced. Caney. Our loyalty is to the payment. The payment guarantees silence. Harrison, shouting, his voice cutting through the tension. Stop! Caney, look at her! Look at her eyes! You do not understand who you are fighting for, or who you are fighting against. Gavin paid you to erase the daughter of the woman who saved this entire empire. Caney paused, taken aback by the sudden profound shift in the confrontation's focus. His tactical focus broke. Caney, skeptical. What does the past have to do with this contract? Harrison. The war ends now, Leah. With the absolute truth, not just for them, but for you. Harrison turned to Leah, his eyes filled with a debt that went back decades. 20 years ago, my first company, the core of Wells Global Holdings, was facing bankruptcy. I was young, arrogant, and blind to the legal trap set by my own family. Only one person saw the fatal error and moved the key assets in time to save us. Her name was Ilara. Leah's eyes widened, the name striking her with the force of a physical blow. Caney. We have no information on an Ilara in our briefing. Harrison. Because Gavin's father and his corporate predecessors, the ones who employed Miss Crow's family, conspired to erase her. Ilara was a brilliant, independent analyst. She saved my empire. In return, I promised her a full, legitimate place in the company. But they saw her as a threat to their bloodline control. They sabotaged the deal. They called her a fraud. They threatened her life. She left, taking nothing, but saving my future. She vanished. Leah, whispering the bread knife forgotten. My mother's name was Ilara. She told me she had to vanish for honesty. Harrison. She gave you her clarity, Leah. Her hands. Her absolute refusal to compromise. I hired you not on an impulse, but because I saw her face in the darkness of the city. I thought I was hiring an assistant. I was finding the daughter of the woman I owe everything to. Caney's radio, which had been silent, suddenly broadcasted Mark's amplified voice from the security console, strategically loud enough for the intruders. Mark, via speaker. Caney, your contract with Jameson is void. We have video evidence of the payment and the conspiracy to commit kidnapping against the legal successor of Harrison Wells. That is a minimum of 20 years. Furthermore, we have recorded the testimony regarding Gavin Wells's father's conspiracy to erase Ilara's existence from the company records. You are now acting on behalf of a convicted corporate criminal and a traitor to the founder. Caney's weapon dropped, clattering on the polished marble floor. His partner froze. The foundation of their mission, simple, untraceable contract work, had been replaced by moral and legal quicksand. Harrison. Your loyalty is based on a lie, Caney. My loyalty to Leah is based on a debt that runs deeper than any contract. Gavin and his conspirators didn't just steal from the company. They betrayed the one person who saved it and tried to erase her legacy. You are part of their final betrayal. Caney. His composure finally broken, he speaks into his comms. Mission aborted. The intelligence was fraudulent. We are exiting the target zone. He signaled his partner and they retreated quickly through the breached door. Mark. Sir, they are retreating. They left their weapons. We have the full exchange recorded. Harrison. Good. Let them go. The threat is neutralized and the truth is out. They have failed on every level. Harrison walked over to Leah. She was staring at the space where the armed men had stood, the shock of the confrontation eclipsed by the weight of the revelation. Leah. My mother. She saved you. They hid the truth. They made her disappear to save their position. Harrison. They fought me for money, Leah. But they fought to maintain the lie that Ilara never mattered. Now, the lie is over, the paper war is over, the violence is over, the moral fight begins now. You are not just my assistant, Leah, you are Ilara's daughter, and you are the final executor of the blind management trust. The legacy is finally returned to its rightful owner. The study's main door remained shattered. Mark rapidly sealed the breach with temporary steel plates. The weapons dropped by Caney and his partner were bagged as evidence. The focus returned to the desk and the secure communication panel. Confirmation, Mark? Harrison stated, his voice devoid of emotion. Is the recording of the extraction attempt and the testimony about Ilara's lineage secured and encrypted? Secured, sir. Time-stamped and backed up to 3 independent servers. Mark confirmed. We have irrefutable evidence of conspiracy to commit felony kidnapping against the legal successor of the Blind Management Trust. The secure line on Mark's console flashed red. It was Gavin Wells using an untraceable burner phone. Mark answered and placed the call on speaker, ensuring the recording system was active. Gavin, via speaker, voice ragged with fear. Mark, what in the hell was that chaos at the corporate tower? Fire alarms, police everywhere. Is my uncle safe? I demand to know the status of the girl. Mark. Mr. Wells, the incident at the tower was a security procedure error, contained immediately. Your uncle is here, and he has something you need to hear. Harrison leaned into the speaker. Gavin. Caney failed. Your extraction contract with Jameson has been recorded. We have evidence of your involvement in the physical assault on this private residence. Gavin. You're delusional. You cannot prove anything. This is the girl's influence. You are erratic. Leah. Leaning into the speaker, her tone colder than ice. I am the daughter of Ilara. Your father conspired with the family of Miss Crow 20 years ago to erase my mother's existence from the company records. They destroyed her reputation and her life to protect their claim to the assets. Gavin was silent. The strategic shock was absolute. Leah. Your entire strategy, the board meeting, the bribe, the assassination attempt, was about protecting your father's original corporate crime. You fought to keep the lie alive. You fought to destroy the daughter of the woman who saved the company. Gavin. A strained whisper. That is an ancient history. It is a fabricated lie. Ilara was irrelevant. Harrison. The lie ends now, Gavin. We have every piece of documentation. Ilara's original salvage analysis, your father's signed order to erase her, and confirmation from the family archives. The legacy you claim is built on fraud and betrayal. Leah. Your loyalty to that lie means you committed a felony against a new legal executor. You chose to protect a crime over protecting the company. That choice is irreversible. Harrison took control of the conversation for the final blow. Gavin, the moral failure is complete. The legal consequences begin now. The Blind Management Trust is legally sealed. Your family has no claim. Furthermore, Mark is initiating the final action. Harrison signaled Mark. Mark, via speaker. Mr. Wells, I am now transferring the full recorded audio of this conversation, along with all evidence pertaining to Miss Crow's fraud and the documented conspiracy to erase Ilara's history, to the Federal Bureau of Investigation and the Independent Corporate Oversight Commission. All family shares tied to your father's original holdings are now frozen, pending criminal investigation. The moral failure is now a criminal matter. Gavin's line immediately disconnected. There was no rage, only the sound of a man breaking contact with reality. Harrison exhaled, the tension draining from his posture. Gavin is neutralized. The paper war is over. The violence failed. The moral deception is neutralized by absolute transparency. Leah walked to the desk, her focus already shifted. The physical threat against the children forced you to move the assets faster. The violence accelerated the justice. The company is safe. The children are safe. What is the public reaction to the corporate chaos? The public is distracted by the fire suppression incident at the tower, Harrison confirmed. They are focused on the millions in damage, not the quiet removal of a CFO and the final collapse of a legacy family. That is Chapter 12. The moral hammer has crushed the lie. Harrison looked at Leah. The final step is the public announcement. We need to frame the entire event. The fraud, the violence, the cleanup, in a single unassailable narrative of corporate renewal. The lesson is about the deployment of moral power. 2 hours after Gavin's line went dead, the penthouse study was operational again. Mark had removed the emergency seals and was monitoring global news feeds. Harrison and Leah sat at the conference table, reviewing the draft of the official corporate announcement. "The narrative must be absolute," Harrison stated, highlighting a section of the press release. "We frame the entirety of the last week not as an internal family war, but as a deliberate act of unprecedented corporate renewal. Focus on the facts the media can verify," Leah advised, pointing to the section detailing Miss Crow. "Crow's fraud is concrete. Verifiable numbers, police involvement, and the frozen accounts. Use the simple ledger, the public understands theft." Harrison: "We downplay Gavin and Jamieson. They are merely desperate former associates whose actions were consistent with the attempted fraud. We cannot reveal Ilara's name. The truth about her is our moral asset, not a public weakness for them to exploit." Mark: "Sir, the initial reports are focused entirely on the fire suppression incident and the millions in water damage. The media is calling it gross executive negligence. The perfect distraction is operational." Leah: "Then we must release the Crow information now. We used the fraud discovery to justify the chaos. The narrative is, Wells Global discovered massive internal corruption and had to perform an emergency, disruptive cleanup to secure all assets from the thieves." Harrison: "Precisely. We used the cost of the disruption to prove the necessity of the purge." Mark released the official statement from the new Blind Management Trust. The release confirms the termination of Miss Crow and the immediate freeze on all associated assets. Mark executed the release. Within minutes, the headlines shifted from corporate negligence to CFO arrested in massive fraud scandal. Harrison turned to the board members, who had been recalled to the conference room under emergency order. Mr. Finch, the chairman, and Mr. Chen were present, along with 3 other non-aligned members. Harrison: "Gentlemen, Miss Crow is in federal custody. Her actions were consistent with long-term systemic fraud, which we now know extended to corporate predecessors. I have secured the company from this fraud by placing all controlling shares into the Blind Management Trust." Mr. Finch: "Harrison, the trust is a fait accompli. We accept the necessity of securing the assets. But who is the executor and successor of this trust? The board requires absolute clarity on the future management structure." Harrison looked at Leah. This was the final definitive step of the legal transfer of power. Harrison: "The executor of the trust, and my successor in overseeing the ethical mandate of Wells Global Holdings, is not chosen by blood, but by proven capacity for moral clarity and sound judgment. I did not choose her. She chose the truth, which chose her." He gestured to Leah. "This is Leah, daughter of Ilara. Ilara was the brilliant analyst whose work saved the original corporation 20 years ago, before she was illegally and systematically erased from the records by the very same corporate rot we have just purged." The room went silent. The revelation was the ultimate moral hammer. It justified everything: the secrecy, the sudden contract, the rapid formation of the trust. Leah: "My mother was destroyed because she valued truth over the bloodline's ambition. I was brought here because I offered the same truth. You have seen the results. Miss Crow is in custody, and the company is secured. My mandate is to ensure this corporation operates with the absolute transparency demanded by the trust charter." Mr. Chen: "The daughter of Ilara. We always knew that history was incomplete. The corporate record needs to be corrected. The trust charter is the only way to ensure this truth is protected." Mr. Finch addressed Leah directly, his respect now absolute. "Miss Leah, your actions in identifying the fraud and neutralizing the external threats were strategic. The board accepts the trust and accepts you as the executor and successor of the ethical mandate." Harrison smiled, a rare moment of genuine warmth. "The corporate opposition is defeated. Gavin's shares are frozen pending criminal investigation. Jamieson has disappeared. Crow is in custody. The moral foundation is restored." Harrison: "The lesson ends now, Leah. You have successfully navigated legal traps, corporate deceit, and physical violence. You have understood that paper is power, but truth is the ultimate weapon. You have won the fortress." Leah: "The fortress is secure, but the war is outside, Mr. Wells. The children are safe, but they are not yet fully restored. The wealth is protected, but it is not yet deployed. Harrison, you have the final command. The company is now a tool for your moral mandate. What is the immediate deployment of the Blind Management Trust? Leah, the immediate deployment is to correct the 20-year-old crime. We use the Trust's resources to find every child who lost their way due to corporate abandonment. We don't just give them bread. We give them the resources to earn their own honesty. The first action of the new Wells Global Holdings is to restore the legacy of every child in the city. Harrison nodded, a profound sense of closure settling over him. The circle is closed, Leah. The stolen legacy is restored. It is time for the final chapter. 1 week had passed. Miss Crow was formally charged. Gavin Wells was under investigation, his family's assets frozen, his name synonymous with corporate fraud. Jameson remained at large, a ghost now irrelevant to the main structure. The conflict was legally concluded. The final scene was set not in the polished penthouse, but in the newly renovated, brightly lit lobby of the former condemned cellar. Now, officially the global headquarters of the Open Oven Foundation. It was the public unveiling of Leah's mandate. Harrison sat with Leah in a small private room before the press conference. He was dressed in a simple suit. Leah wore practical clothing, her usual straightforward attire, refusing the stylist's Mark had provided. The legal documents are executed, Harrison confirmed, placing a single final folder on the table. You are the irrevocable executor of the Blind Management Trust. The controlling shares of Wells Global Holdings are yours to command. You are the ultimate authority. Leah, the power is secured. The threat is removed. The question is deployment. You won the fortress. I must use it to win the war outside. Harrison, the media is waiting. They expect a spectacle, a corporate heiress, a fairy tale. Give them cold justice and strategic logic. Show them that the wealth is not an inheritance of luxury, but a tool of absolute moral leverage. Mark, 1 minute to airtime, sir. The major networks are live. Mr. Wells, you start. Harrison stood and walked into the massive, echoing lobby, filled with journalists and cameras. Leah followed, standing slightly behind him. Harrison, addressing the media, his voice commanding the silence. The last 2 weeks have been a period of profound corporate restructuring. We discovered and purged systemic corruption, fraud, and decades of ethical decay, led by former associates. The financial cost of this purge was high, but the ethical cost of inaction would have been ruin. He paused, letting the severity of the statement sink in. Harrison, effective immediately. Wells Global Holdings is no longer managed by legacy or blood. It is managed by moral mandate. I have placed the entire controlling interest into the Blind Management Trust. The primary mission of this trust is absolute transparency and the correction of corporate debt. Harrison gestured to Leah. The camera swung, focusing on the young girl with the severe, focused expression. Harrison, this is the executor of the trust, Leah. She represents the new standard of Wells Global Holdings. Her predecessor, her mother, Ilara, was the original moral compass of this company, whose existence was erased by the very corruption we have now removed. Leah now restores that truth. He stepped back. The final command was hers. Leah, stepping to the podium, her voice steady and clear. I did not come to the fortress to become wealthy. I came to prove that honesty is the ultimate form of power. I have inherited a tool of immense financial capability. I will use this tool to correct the betrayal of the past. Leah, the first executive action of the Blind Management Trust is the launch of Operation Foundational Sourcing. We will use the company's full global network to identify, document, and recruit every single child in this city living outside the system, the children that the previous corporate structure deemed invisible and unworthy of resources. A reporter shouted from the crowd, "Are you saying the new corporate focus is charity?" Leah, her stare was unwavering. "No, I am saying the new corporate focus is investment. We are investing in simple, uncompromised honesty. We will provide them with the resources to earn their own autonomy. We are not offering charity. We are offering the opportunity to choose truth over the lie of the street. Leah. The second executive action is the Elara Scholarship and Recruitment Mandate. We will use the company's vast resources to provide full, uncompromised educational and sustenance resources to these children. We will not teach them how to navigate complexity. We will teach them how to use clarity to defeat complexity, she concluded, her voice rising slightly. Wells Global Holdings will now operate as an unassailable financial engine, bound by moral clarity. The fortress is open. The fight is over. The work begins now. Harrison watched from the side. He saw the cold strategic victory in her eyes. She hadn't become a sentimental reformer. She had become a decisive leader, using the corporation's structure against the corporation's past sins. Later, as the press disbanded, Leah returned to the quiet room where Harrison was waiting. Leah, the public narrative is set. The moral mandate is deployed. What is your final strategic command, Mr. Wells? Harrison. The final command is simple, Leah. I am leaving. The company, the trust, the mandate, it is all yours. My work is finished. I found the truth, and the truth found its power. Leah. Will you be safe? Harrison. I will be free. That is a kind of safety no fortress can provide. You don't need me anymore. The truth protects itself. Harrison stood up, a deep, satisfied look in his eyes. He walked to the door, paused, and looked back at Leah, the new absolute authority of Wells Global Holdings. Harrison. Remember the lesson, Leah. The fortress was never defended by the walls. It was defended by the integrity of the architect. And the greatest victory is not destroying the lie, but building something so strong and so true that the lie becomes irrelevant. Harrison walked out of the room, leaving the new executor of the trust alone with her immense power and her absolute moral mandate. Leah looked at the simple bread knife on the table, then looked out at the city, a place now waiting to be corrected. The game was over. The structure of power had changed.